Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your good friend Airsoft Man 819 here again with yet another video. Today's video, I'm going to be talking about the Nintendo DSi XL and why it's getting so damn expensive. Um, Unfortunately, it's like a lot of other things. There's not one particular reason why, but several. And that's really why I wanted to make this video. It's basically a video letting people know that if you're wanting to get one of these consoles, now is probably the best time. And that's because they're getting to a point where they're getting kind of difficult to afford. And a boxed copy, or I should say a boxed version of the console like I have right here, is going for 200 plus, whereas a loose example of the console is going for 150 plus, which is much higher than pretty much any other regular model of the DS. And there's technically three of them, four if you count the DSi XL. So you have the original Fat DS, you have the DS Lite, you have the DSi, and then you have the DSi XL, which came out last. And that is an important thing to remember with this, is because the DSi XL launched in America anyways, I believe early 2010. So I think by March or April, it had been released. And basically less than a year later, the 3DS was released. And even though the DSi XL was technically manufactured until 2014, it, in my opinion, from all the research I've done, has the lowest production numbers out of all of the original DS models, because Nintendo sold a whole bunch of the Fat DS and the DS Lite, and they sold a whole bunch of the regular DSi, but the DSi XL was an upgraded, more expensive model that was more intended for adults, and because of that, it came with the price tag. And to be quite honest, it was so big that for a kid, this would be somewhat of an awkward handheld, especially compared to much smaller consoles like the Game Boy Advance or the regular DS, DS Lite, etc. But now, in 2025, this is the best way to play regular DS games. So this is the box. The console's not in here. I actually have it in a poly box because of how collectible this console is. So I'm not going to take it out of here. All the contents are included though, including this included a big pen size stylus in addition to the stylus that was already in the console, which made it accommodate larger hands much better. So, and this is a numbers matching box, and there's actually a comparison on the back here to the DS Lite, and it is much bigger, 93% bigger on the screens. And the screens on this are either about the same brightness as the DS Lite or maybe even a little better. So the screens are not only bigger, but they're brighter. So that obviously makes it a better experience if you're playing regular DS games. So, and this is a numbers matching box and console. So I have my DSi XL right here. It's a blue one. If you look at the serial numbers, if I can get them both on screen at the same time, they do match. So this is a numbers matching box and console. So obviously, in addition to being bigger than the DS Lite and the regular DSi, it also came in its own set of color schemes, which is another reason it wasn't as popular amongst children, because this blue was probably the most child-oriented color out of the color scheme of the DSi XL. Because you had like a brown coffee colored one, a dark red burgundy, a yellow, and you have the blue here. And the blue and yellow were probably the most popular amongst all of them. But the burgundy one was sort of popular, and the brown one was not popular, obviously. So you have sort of this two-tone thing going on where, you know, the top part of the console and this glossy part on top of the lid is the main color of the console, whereas the bottom portion is black on the outside at least, and you have kind of this black trim around the screen. But when you open it, the internal part of the console, both on the bottom and the top, is blue. So pretty cool. You know, it's a good-looking console. Being so big, it fits great in the hands. I have kind of big, beefy hands, you know, kind of muscular hands. So that's another reason I bought this. In addition to the screens just being so much bigger and so much better than the majority of the other DS models, which is in the end why this is so expensive. And it retains the simple controls of the original DS and DS Lite, where you just have a D-pad, A, B, X, Y. You have two bumpers, which also act as camera buttons. You have start and select down here, and then you have power. Just a very simple, there's no analog stick, no dual analog stick, there's no analog nub. Just very simple controls for very simple games, because regular DS games tend to be much simpler than 3DS games or anything else that came out after. So this control scheme is perfect. The D-pad is literally in the perfect spot. The buttons are in the perfect spot. It's such a big, chunky, flat console. It just sits in your hands really well. That's another reason that makes it popular. Another thing that makes it popular, ironically, is that YouTubers, this is the most popular regular DS amongst YouTubers because it has the biggest, brightest, easiest to capture screen. So that's another reason this tends to go for so much money, because a lot of YouTubers tend to gravitate towards it because it's very easy to capture DS gameplay on this. Because the DS is a very difficult console to emulate well, and also kind of difficult to capture because there's no video out or anything on this thing. So if you want to capture gameplay, you literally have to just sit the console very still and just sit there and play it and focus the camera on the screen, which also makes this so popular. So I'll go ahead and power it on and show you another reason, or I should say show you the reason in person. So here's my regular Fat Boy DS, my silver one. I love this little thing. In some ways, I prefer some of the controls on this over the later models, and it's so fat that it actually still remains pretty comfortable despite being still smaller than the DSi XL. But I'm going to power it on and show you guys the difference in the screen brightness. This screen is so dim that the lighting is overpowering the screen, so I'm trying to cover it with my hands. Can you guys see just how much bigger and brighter the DSi XL is compared to the regular DS? It's insane, and even when you go into the home screen, it's no different. So that's the main reason why the DSi XL is so freaking expensive. It is literally the best way to play regular DS games. And the fact that it supports SD cards, which means it's much easier to mod. And this supports SD cards up to 32 gigabytes. If I can get this thing open. You have to have, I just trimmed my fingernails prior to this video. Okay, you guys are just gonna have to trust me that that's an SD card slot, even though it says it right there. So, and it includes a much bigger stylus. Even the stylus in the console is still big and chunky in comparison to the stylus from the regular DS. Not to mention the stylus on the regular DS comes out the freaking top. But if you just compare these two, this thing feels like a toothpick in comparison to the, I mean, look. I mean, it's pretty obvious. So, me being an adult, this feels much better in the hand than this little thing. So, this has been my short video on the Nintendo DSi XL and why it's so freaking expensive and why you need to get one now if you're going to get one. And to be honest with you, if you're going to, I wouldn't go all out like I did and get a beautiful example in a box. If you're buying it to play it, buy one that's a little rough and just make sure the controls and the screen and everything are good, because I just don't even like playing this thing because of how rare and expensive it's becoming. I tend to play this a little bit more often because you can get these for 50 bucks, whereas these are going without a box for 150. So keep that in mind too, that if you're kind of rough on consoles, I would try to get a rougher example of this or just stick to the regular DS or DS Lite, depending on your preference. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and stay tuned for more interesting videos from the Airsoft Man 819 channel. I will see you later.